The wind whispered through the depths of the forest. A cold breeze slithered between the branches, as if trying to convey something. Ethan's car had broken down on a remote mountain road far from the city. It was past midnight, and he knew there was no chance of finding help on that deserted path. Realizing it was too dangerous to wait in the dark, he decided to proceed on foot. With no streetlights to guide him, only the pale moonlight and strange forest sounds accompanied him as he walked deeper into the wilderness. Soon, Ethan stumbled upon an old, abandoned house by the roadside. The roof was caving in, and moss clung to the wet, decaying walls. A strange feeling washed over him, fear mixed with a peculiar curiosity. Staying out here in the forest seemed far more dangerous, so he decided to spend the night in the eerie house. As he stepped inside, a musty smell hit him like a wave. Every step on the wooden floorboards made them creak beneath his weight. The silence that filled the house felt like it had been there for years, hiding between the cracks in the walls. Ethan found a worn-out sofa in one room, closed the door and lay down, hoping to rest. But as he lay there, an unsettling feeling took hold of him. Something, or someone, was watching. He peered out the window into the forest and froze. In the pitch-black distance, he saw two glowing red eyes staring back at him. They were unnaturally bright, eerily human. The eyes remained still, yet Ethan could feel their unwavering gaze penetrating through the darkness, locking onto him. He tried to move, but his body felt paralyzed as if the eyes held him in place. A sudden low wail echoed from the forest, shaking the silence. Panicking, Ethan tried to shut the window, but his trembling hands failed him. The eyes disappeared for a moment, only to reappear closer, this time just beyond the front door. Realizing the growing danger, Ethan bolted from the house, running blindly into the forest. But no matter how fast he ran, the trees around him seemed to shift and twist, leading him in circles past the same landmarks. Time and space warped into a never-ending maze of darkness. Suddenly, the red eyes appeared directly ahead, just a few feet away. Ethan's heart pounded in his chest. Out of the shadows, a tall, slender figure emerged, a being woven from darkness itself. Its face was indiscernible, but the sheer presence of the entity radiated an overwhelming sense of dread. The creature circled him slowly, as if studying him. "You're late," it whispered in a voice that was both distant and intimate. "You've been calling me for a long time." Ethan's mind raced. "I never called anyone," he shouted in panic. The shadow drew closer, its voice a low murmur. "This night, this road, this house, they were all waiting for you. You summoned me in your dreams." Fragments of Ethan's recurring nightmares flooded his mind, shadowy figures, glowing eyes, and the constant feeling of being pursued. Those dreams, he now realized, were more than just dreams. The being had been following him all along, waiting for the right moment. "I offer you a choice," the entity hissed. "Stay with me, or I'll return every night, and each time I'll bring you closer until you're mine." Ethan knew that escaping this creature wasn't as simple as running. It wasn't just a nightmare, it had become his reality, entwined with his very soul. Taking a deep breath, Ethan stood his ground. "I'll never belong to you," he whispered, locking eyes with the glowing orbs. He fought with every ounce of strength he had left, but the shadows began to coil around him. The red eyes watched, unblinking, as the forest swallowed Ethan whole. The next morning, no trace of Ethan or the abandoned house remained. Only the faint whisper of the wind rustled through the forest, carrying a haunting phrase. "I found you." Months passed, and no one heard from Ethan again. His mysterious disappearance became the subject of many rumors in the nearby town. Some said wild animals had taken him, while others believed he'd wandered too far into the mountains and got lost. But his best friend, James, refused to believe any of it. Determined to uncover the truth, James decided to follow Ethan's path and search for him in the mysterious forest. As James approached the woods, a strange silence greeted him. Despite the winter's chill, the forest felt oddly warm, as if it were alive with something unnatural. His heart pounded with a mixture of fear and resolve. Suddenly, a faint whisper drifted through the trees. "James, turn back. You don't belong here." The voice was cold, sending shivers down his spine. But James pushed forward, determined to find his friend. Fear gripped him, yet he kept moving deeper into the woods. At last, James spotted the old abandoned house Ethan had mentioned before. It looked even more sinister than he imagined, draped in an aura of darkness. The windows seemed to hide unseen watchers, their presence palpable but invisible. Steeling himself, James stepped inside, greeted by an icy gust. There was no sign of Ethan. The silence was suffocating, as if the house itself was holding its breath. Then, James noticed a faint movement behind a door. He swung it open, and there was Ethan, slumped against the wall, his eyes vacant and lifeless. It was as if his soul had been drained. "Ethan!" James shouted, rushing to his friend's side. He shook Ethan's shoulders, but there was no response. A faint, raspy whisper escaped Ethan's lips. "The eyes. They see me." A chill ran down James's spine. He realized this place was more than just a house. It was a gateway. And now they were trapped within it. James sensed countless unseen eyes watching them, their gaze heavy and unrelenting. Determined to save his friend, James hoisted Ethan onto his shoulder and made for the door. But just as they reached it, the door slammed shut, and darkness consumed the room. A sinister whisper echoed through the walls. "You are too late. There is no escape." Shadowy figures emerged from the darkness, circling Ethan as if drawing his soul into the abyss. James knew he had to act fast. He shook Ethan violently, shouting, "Wake up! Fight it! This place can't take your soul. I'm here with you." Ethan's eyes flickered, life slowly returning to them. But just as hope bloomed, a dark, ethereal woman with glowing red eyes materialized from the shadows. Her voice was soft, yet commanding. "He is mine. No one escapes what they summon." Gathering every ounce of willpower, James stood firm. "You feed on fear," he shouted, "but friendship is stronger." With those words, warmth surged through his hands, breaking the darkness's grip on Ethan. The shadow woman shrieked in fury, lunging toward them. But James's resolve pushed her back. The door swung open one last time. James carried Ethan out, running through the forest as the first light of dawn chased away the shadows. With the sun's warmth, the red eyes vanished, and they were finally free. James and Ethan returned to town, but the night left a permanent mark on their souls. The shadow of fear still lingered in Ethan's gaze, though his friend's bravery had saved him. James vowed never to return to that cursed forest. But sometimes, late at night, James could still feel those eyes watching from afar. He knew the greatest weapon against fear was never to give in. And yet, in the distant darkness beyond Ethan's window, the red eyes still gleamed. Don't forget to follow and like to keep our videos coming. See you in the next videos.